Mandukya Karika. Pranam. Om Bhadram Karne Bhishnuyam Deva Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatra Sthirairange Sustuvagung Sastanuvihi Veshema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddashava Swasti na Pusha Vishwaveda Swasti Nastakshyo Varishthanemi Swasti no Brihaspatirdadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. We continue with our discussion on Mandukya Karika. Just excuse me for a minute. Some problem. We had covered up to verse number 36, and the discussion was very interesting, where it was shown how usually we think that the world that is around us, it is more real than our dream state. And more importantly, we think that dream state is dependent on the waking state. It's a world that helps us create, or whatever it is, the dream state. Now, my dear, very dear listeners, I'm sure you people are deeply interested in philosophy and deeply interested in Vedanta philosophy. More than that, I believe that you have a rational bent of mind, and it's through that rational philosophical bent of mind you want to understand the reality. And there can never be a better work than Mandukya Karika. Those of you who are interested and those of you who have such inclination, I request you all to listen to the talks from beginning. You will love it. You'll fall in love with Vedanta philosophy. What exactly is Mandukya Karika discussing? This is something we have discussed many times. Mandukya Karika is discussing a very simple question, a very simple problem. What is reality? Number two, we are in this world. Now, what is the real in this world? Am I real? Is this world real? Usually, when we think of Upanishads, we think that either we think that it's something esoteric, something mystic, something very deep, something that cannot be comprehended. And when you come to a simpler level, we think that it talks about Atman, it talks about Brahman. It's all true, absolutely true. But actually, Upanishad talks about reality. What is real? What is real? And who is real? Verse number 36 attacks the common notion that waking state is real. This is a very interesting discussion, and ultimately it will conclude with there is no cause, there is no effect. But the discussion on reality, what is reality? Verse number 36 has beautifully said, when we dream, when anybody dreams, he feels that he has a body. Definitely, there is a sense of identity. Identity always implies implies a sense of body, and with that body, he goes anywhere in the world. And yet, it is obvious that his body keeps lying sleeping in his bed. Why? Gaudapada, who wrote this Mandukya Karika, he doesn't use a second person to prove it. He just says that, just think of yourself. You dreamed that you went to Delhi in a dream. Now, it's not physically possible to go to Delhi and return during the time that you slept. Similarly, if you saw big houses and big cars, the example used in Mandukya Karika would be of elephants, etc. Now, it's not possible for those huge things to enter your mind, which means that you are lying in the bed and the ideas were getting conjured up. And that makes all of us, all of us think that waking state is the real state, the world is real, the dream is dream, imaginary, something imagined during sleep. Those of you who have a fascination for neurosciences, etc., you'll find that these people have been struggling to explain all this, but they're not really successful. Now comes verse number 37. Grahanat jagritvat hetu swapna ishyate tad hetu tvat tu tasyeva sat jagritam ishyate. English translation by Swami Nikhilanji is that since the experience of objects in dream is similar to the experience of objects in the waking state, now when you dream, the kind of experience you have with the objects, you have similar experience in the waking state. So waking experience is regarded as the cause of dream because there is a similarity. It's only by him who admits waking experience to be the cause of dream experience that waking experience can be regarded as real. Actually, the verse and its translation slightly complicated. Meaning is far more simple than the verse written by Miss Priyanka and the translation given by Miss Priyanka. Essentially, Mandukya raises the question, what is real? Now, how do you define real? Just think. No, I wait for a few seconds, just for a few seconds, to make you think. There was a great Western philosopher, Bradley, and there's a very famous book by him, Appearance and Reality. It's a very simple question. How do you define reality? Even our Bertrand Russell, the great philosopher, he had tried to discuss what's reality. In these verses, Mandukya Karika takes a very simple approach towards reality. And this approach is as simple as it is majestic. What? Says that which is a common experience to all is real. We must salute Gaudapada. Such a simple explanation. Common to all, not common to majority. For example, uh, since our childhood we have felt and a common man things, and in literature we talk, and in our day-to-day language we say, the sun rises in the east. But anyone who has some knowledge of science knows that the sun doesn't rise. It's the earth that is revolving around the sun. Now, anyone who has some knowledge of science, anyone who has understanding of astronomy, will admit that it's the earth that revolves around sun. Technically speaking, that is real. Now, there are commoners, there are people who do not understand science. For them, sun rises in the east. We don't even take them into consideration. That's not important. However, the fundamental idea remains the same. It does not matter whether majority of people consider something to be real. To be real, it has to be accepted by all who has experienced that. Now, this here is this world. I stay in Belur Math, which is say in Howrah district, and we have this famous Howrah station, very famous Howrah station. It's a very old station. Now you go to Howrah station and you say it's Howrah station. Anyone else who goes to the Howrah station, he, she, they, kid, elderly, they'll all say that it's a Howrah station. Now, naturally, it's a common experience that it's a Howrah station. So Howrah station is something which is real. Gaudapada attacks that. How he attacks? He says, when you sleep, you start wading into dreams. And from there you go deeper into dreams. And during the dream, now please mark the argument. During the dream, you feel that this is the common experience of everyone. Yet when you wake up, you realize that dream is your absolutely personal experience, no doubt about it. Any sensible person will tell you that your dreams are your dreams. So, a dream is a personal experience, strictly subjective experience. And you say that dreams are a product of waking state. So, by the same logic, when applied backward, the conclusion is that your experience of the waking state is a personal subjective experience. And you cannot say that waking state, the experience of the world, the experience of the waking state is a common experience to all. No, you cannot say. Logic doesn't permit you to say that. Which means waking state too is a personal subjective experience, implying that it's not common to all. And the ultimate conclusion of it is that it is not real with a capital R, capital E, capital A, and capital L. World is not real. Because Gaudapada uses our own argument, our own logic. He says, you say that dreams are product of a waking state. But dreams are subjective personal experience. Of course, it's obvious. So waking state also has to be subjective personal experience, which means waking state is not real. This is what verse number 37 says. So the premise, the criteria that Gaudapada sets for a thing to be real, for a state to be real, is that it has to be common to all. Your dream is not common to all, so dream is not real. Being a product, so-called product, later on you said there is no product, but being a product as we understand of the waking state too cannot be common to all, and hence waking state is not real. The world is not real. Verse number 36 had explained that how dream bodies falls. And if it's subjective personal experience, the waking state, then your this body is also false. Let me let me go a little deeper into it. By nature, we are so shallow, we are so superficial that we tend to conclude things and we don't even want to learn. Hmm, I'm not chiding you. I don't mean to be insulting. Partly, I am also like that. Problem with us is that we think that seeing is believing. Indeed, it is true. Seeing is believing. The problem is that every seeing updates things, updates the previous seeing. It so happened that once I visited a chance to go to a place, like you go to some place where you were when you were in your student days, in your college days, and sometimes when you tend to get old, you like to revisit down the memory lane, down the memory lane, not only in the memory but actually visiting that. Many of you might have felt like when you have grown up, maybe 50, 60, a little more, you wanted to visit your school, you wanted to visit your college. And suddenly you realize that things have changed. Things have completely changed. The most important change that you will notice is the roads and the lanes. They look narrower, they look shorter. Distance seems to have shortened. It's a universal phenomena. Just try, if you don't believe me, just go visit a place where you were 30 years ago at least, and you will suddenly feel that roads have become narrower. But a person who has been living there, will he say that the roads have narrowed? And common sense says that road cannot narrow. Similarly, you will feel as if the rooms have changed. Rooms have become smaller. Rooms cannot get smaller. Thing is, when you live somewhere, as you keep growing, as your body keeps growing, and as the surrounding inputs, surrounding data keeps changing, your brain goes on updating that continuously. You don't feel the change. But a person visiting a place after, say, 30, 40 years, even if the place has not changed, he had changed. He has become more mature. He has grown in his brain activities. He now has more exposure. When he tries to look back at the old place, old associations with same old memory, they do not fit. How can that be real then? The external world that keeps changing, because memory plays tricks. And when you think of your childhood memories, some place where you were, and you'll realize that memory is playing tricks. The world is changing. Even otherwise, world is continuously changing. Earth is moving, solar system is moving. So many things are happening, and there is solar energy, there is wind energy continuously hammering on those um, places and persons, and people are aging. And a person who is always there doesn't feel the change because of the continuous update, but we feel the change. That shows that your experience is subjective, personal experience, but we don't even realize it. Why? As we shall see. When you get absorbed in something, When you are seeing something continuously, you get absorbed in it. You completely forget that things are changing around you. I read one beautiful anecdote, one joke. One young lady was getting married, and her mother gifted her own wedding dress to be put on during wedding. And when the mom brought out that wedding dress, she started shedding tears. So the daughter asked, "Mom, why are you crying? Does it remind you of your marriage?" She says, "No. There was a time when I could fit in this dress." So you see, as the time passes, your body changes. And suddenly something comes from the past and you realize that you don't fit there anymore. If it's real, well, everyone should have the same kind of feeling. It's not there. And we know very much. We know it very well that something, an object is seen differently by different persons. Look at the moon. We have one Bengali poet, and he looked at moon and says, "It looks like a burnt bread." Poets see the moon differently. Scientists see the moon differently. But that is all about interpretation. Even when it comes to experience, experience is actually not common. We don't even realize it. We never realize that subjective, strictly personal experience. What is more interesting about this thing is that very interesting thing. People consider religion and God to be illusory because different religions talk differently about God. See how we use the same argument about God. People say that science, the knowledge given by the science is common to all. When they say that, is it scientific? They mean to say that, is it accepted by all, the learned? In case of religion, they say that prophets differ. Different religions talk differently about God, implying that God, religion, etc., is illusory. And the world is real because science says it. In reality, is just the reverse. In reality, it's just the reverse. Religion is not your subjective personal experience because till you are in Savikalpa Samadhi, till you are in the realm of mind, you will have a vision of different God. And that's why you find that different religions talk differently about God because they are within the realm of mind. God is appearing, the absolute pure consciousness is appearing to them as personal God. The moment you go for the impersonal God, when you transcend the empire of mind, what remains? Pure existence, pure knowledge, pure bliss. And all the sages, all the prophets tell the same thing. If at all there is a unanimity in this world about something, about a truth, it's about God. God, the absolute. God, the impersonal. We don't even realize that when we talk about science being real, science being correct, science explaining the world, actually it's a subjective personal experience. No, we don't realize it. And Gaudapada has given beautiful arguments. When it comes to God, God the absolute, the experiences are common. Atman is real. Why Atman is real? Because everyone experiences the same thing. Sri Ramakrishna has very beautifully said in his Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, in the state of Advaita, Sob sealer ak ra. When the jackals, when the jackals shout, you might have heard the jackals screaming at night. It's a cacophony. When the jackals make the cry, they kind of sing out in different tune. That is to give an idea that they are in huge number. So even if you have only two jackals, they will sound as if there are 5, 7 jackals. And if there are 4, 5 of them, oh my God, it will appear there is a whole herd of it. Interestingly, if two jackals start singing in the or making noise in the same note, they stop. Usually, when we are singing, if somebody is out of step, out of note, people stop. In case of jackals, it's the reverse. If they have the same note, they stop. And Sri Ramakrishna says beautifully, the state of Advaita, all jackals cry out the same voice. If the test of being real is the experience is common to all, then Atman alone is real, everything else is unreal, including God with form. Unreal in the sense that it belongs to the empire of mind, and the world is absolutely unreal because it's a pure personal subjective experience. Funny, it's so funny that we think this world to be real and God to be illusory because of the same reason. We think that everyone has the same experience, particularly because of the intervention of science. But no, it's not. It's about something like, those of you might have seen those grandfather clock, the old time clock, where there used to be pendulum. And those of you who know something about physics know that when a pendulum swings, its point of rest is just vertically below. And when it's swinging, it has maximum speed there. And when it goes to one end or the other, there's the point of maximum instability. And yet it finds rest there. God is the point of rest. We have maximum instability there. World is the place of activity. And we feel as if we have rest. Exactly like that. We think this world to be an experience which is common to all, but actually it's a subjective personal experience. We think God to be subjective personal experience, but actually it's common to all. Such a paradox, such contradiction. I'm sure many of you would find it pretty interesting. Just a second. I'd like to see how you find it. I'm sure Dhananjay Sarkar says, reality is which is permanent forever. Exactly. And if it's permanent forever, then in that case, the experience has to be common to all. Dhananjay Sarkar says, it's very, I'm sure. Actually, there's some problem with our chat. I'm not able to see. I hope you like this argument by Gaudapada. I just gave you an explanation what exactly he means to say in verse number 37. That not only dream, but waking state too is personal, subjective. So now, verse number 38 begins, and the objection is raised that look, dream state is seen to be extremely unstable. It's continuously changing. If you go back to your dream and continuously sights are changing. But waking state is much more stable. Waking state seems to be much more permanent compared to the dream. So why can't we say that waking state is real? Vedantis reply that, yeah, yes, you are absolutely correct. What do you think? But this permanence that you see, that is for the ignorant people. Those who had got realization, and I mean, if you read the books by any of these masters, be it Buddha, be it Jesus, be it Sri Ramakrishna, they will all say that the world is impermanent. Kathopanishad has a beautiful mantra, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Is the eternal amidst non-eternal. So it's only the ignorant. Because we don't have a complete understanding of the waking state and the dream state, that's why we think that it's like that. But if you can go into samadhi, if you can gain that knowledge, then you realize that no, it's the other way around. Waking state is as unstable as a dream state. What Vedanta tries to say is that dream is not dependent on the waking state. Actually, it's an independent state and it's a stage of Atman. Atman keeps on experiencing. Atman experiences waking, it experiences dream, it experiences dreamless state and turiya. It's all beyond it, where there is nothing, no experience at all. So to think that dream is born of waking, no, is completely wrong. And this is what verse number 38 will talk about. उत्पादस्य प्रसिद्धत्वात् अजम सर्वम उदाहृतम न च भूतात् अभूतस्य संभवोस्ति कथंचन. All entities are said to be unborn, since birth cannot be established as a fact. It is utterly impossible for the unreal to be born of the real. Says that earlier, when we were discussing, much earlier, it was established that cause and effect, when we talk about cause and effect are actually illusory. It was discussed on the basis of different philosophies, and it will be discussed again. Whole thing is done in a comprehensive way. Now, because there is no cause and effect, so the wise, that is, those who have realized the truth, those who have seen Atman, those who have known God, they know that there is no birth. Ajatvad. It's a famous Ajatvad of Mandukya. That which is real cannot give birth either to real or to unreal. Atman, pure Atman, can never give birth either to the real waking state or to the unreal waking state. This, the idea is there is no waking state. We think that waking state is real. See, the entire discussion revolves around one single thing. The world that we see, is it real? Because if this world is real, then God becomes meaningless. And to say that God is also real and waking state is real, no, it doesn't work. So, verse number 38, and that's pretty simple. It simply says, that you say that waking state is real and dream state is unreal. That's what is being said. That's what we normally think. That's what we say, that as the objection was read, that waking state seems to be more permanent, as a gentleman wrote, that which is permanent. Waking state seems to be permanent and dream seems to be impermanent. Dream seems to be illusory. Vedanta counter says, how can something permanent produce something impermanent? How can that which is real produce something which is unreal? The unreal cannot be born out of real. It's just not possible. Anything that is born will carry the characteristic of its parents. Like we know today that the genetic pool coming from mother and father, they remain the same. It's just a combination and recombination and permutation, etc. It has parental tendencies have to be there. I mean, genetically. On that comes sanskar of the individual coming from the past birth. So it's only for the ignorant that waking appears to be more real and dream appears to be less real. As I said, if you start analyzing your own experiences of the world, you'll see that how things have been changing, how there is no permanence in this world, and how you'll see how different people are perceiving things differently. Even the acts of a person are seen differently by different people. A person commits an act of violence. Some people will call him a terrorist. Others will tell him a holy warrior. Experiences are totally different. Now, naturally, the question comes so well where the whole thing is leading to. On the one hand, Vedanta is saying there is no birth, which means that dream state is not born of the waking state. Again, you are saying that neither there is waking nor dream. Actually, all these things have been made very clear in the beginning itself by this Mandukya Karika, where it says that these are states of Atman. And comes verse number 39, which is very interesting. Asat jagrite drishtva swapne pashyati tanmaya asat swapnepi drishtva cha prati buddho na pashyati. A man filled with the impressions of the unreal objects seen in the waking state sees those very things in dream as well, but he does not see in the waking state the unreal objects seen in dreams. You see certain things in dreams, but you don't see those things in the waking state. Sometimes you'll find that things have tallied, but usually it doesn't. Like, there are many stories and there are many movies where somebody had seen something in dream, and then it's like deja vu. You suddenly realize, oh, you are seeing it. However, you usually see in dreams what you experience in the waking state. So, what does it all indicate? So, it's very interesting. Thing is, when you get absorbed in something, when you get deeply absorbed in something, deeply absorbed, and deeply absorbed means deeply absorbed. Because you are deeply absorbed in certain things, you find those things getting replicated in the waking state. You find replicated in the dream. That's why you will see that sometimes no, if you take too much of salty food at night, in the dream you will continuously be seeing that you are going near a fountain of water, having water, etc. Basically, your particular sense was entangled with the salty thing. So, because of that sense, your mind was entangled with the salty thing. And slowly, there's a demand for water, and your mind is now completely immersed, it's completely absorbed in desire for water because body is demanding. It consumes up those thoughts in the dream. Similarly, people who are extremely lustful, those who are extremely lustful, they see such dreams. And when you are lusting after something, you want wealth, you want this, you want that, and you dream of only of those things. Why? Because your mind is so absorbed, see, so absorbed in certain ideas, on certain objects. And that's why I find that some scientists have made discoveries based on their dreams. But are those objects real? No, that's what we have been discussing. Objects are not real. Then why they are real? Because of absorption. You're so absorbed, so obsessed with certain thing that you think you think it to be real. I had come up with a very beautiful expression which I wish to use in my future work. Future work on mind. I love to analyze what is mind. It's my favorite subject. My conclusion was that awareness increases eminence. As you become more and more absorbed about a thing, you become more and more aware of that thing. And as you become more aware, its eminence increases in your mind. A very simple example is, extremely simple example is that you have to meet somebody, someone very important, and that person also has to meet some old friend, some lover, whatever it is, and you are running late. Because you are running late, you are always in a hurry. How quickly you can reach, and you say that, oh my God, time is moving so fast. Your mind is focused on movement, on motion, not on time. And the person who is waiting for you, he or she, is continuously looking at watch, and there's no activity on that person's path. And he or she feels, oh my God, how late he is running. I mean, that person who is waiting, he thinks that it's half an hour. Actually, it's less than 5 minutes. I remember when I was a student and writing my exams, we used to feel, oh my God, time is already up. How come? Then later on, when I became a monk, I had to be invigilator, and there's a rule being a teacher in a school. And if there is something I was always scared stiff of, it was invigilation duty. Fortunately, um, when I became a monk, I joined at Ramakrishna Mission with David Devgar, and there I had to be invigilator only for a few exams. And after that, I was given the responsibility to look after the whole setup of examination. So I was kind of relieved. And it was such a big punishment. Those of you who might have done invigilation duty will know you have nothing to do. You can't sit and read a book there because it's your job to look after the students, whether or not they're cheating and they're trying to pass notes and they're trying to pass on answers. No, you cannot. You have nothing to do. The only thing you do is pace up and down and look at the watch and hope for 3 hours to be up. And boys who are writing their exams, they're so absorbed in writing, they don't feel the passage of time. Same thing happens when somebody says, a boy tells a girl, I love you. I'll die without you. And do people die when they're jilted? Yes, they do. There are cases. And there are people who move on. But when it was the moment of separation, there was pain. Why? Because there was absorption. And because of absorption, there was eminence. This is what Karika says. Objects are illusory. Your emotions are illusory. Because you become absorbed in it, they grow in eminence. They they grow to disproportionate size. They become like phantoms, huge. And yet they are unreal. That's what we have been discussing. That's what we have been showing. Now, Karika goes further and says, not every object that you experience in waking is seen in the dream. And at times you'll see that what you see in the dream from the waking sometimes changes its proportion, sometimes it changes its characteristic. And not everything that you have seen in dream you experience in waking state. So there is no dependable causal relation. Question was raised that finally you say what is the relationship between waking and dream? And it concludes, don't you ever conclude that dream is dependent on the waking or waking is dependent on the dream. There is no dependable causal relation. There is no cause and effect relationship between waking and dream. Yet you will find that neuroscientists are trying to explain dreams on the basis of waking. There was this Sigmund Freud. He found libido and morido in everything and even in dreams and everything. Oh, it has effect. But to say that dream is dependent entirely on the waking is wrong, absolutely wrong. The problem is that generally speaking, mind it, generally speaking, you see in dream what you have experienced in the waking state, and that's why speaking generally we say that waking state produces the dream. But in reality, it is not the truth. Conclusion is that don't you think that waking state gives birth to the dream state? Dream is an independent state as waking is. And both of these are states of Atman. I don't know how important it feels to you, but actually it's very important because if you go by science, if you go by neuroscience, then everything is judged by the standards of the waking state. You want to judge God and religion and spirituality from the waking state. You want to judge dream by the waking state. You want to judge the deep sleep by the waking state. So waking state becomes your yardstick. It becomes your weighing scale. Mandukya Karika hits at that and shows no. When you think that waking state is real, you mean to say that experience is common to all, but it's not common to all. You think that dream state is a product of waking? No, it's not. Whole thing is shown logically. I was once reading a book by Belur Math on this is a very famous book, Story of Philosophy. And then he talks about Spinoza and says that Spinoza wrote famous book Ethics. It has nothing to do with ethics, it's just a name. Says that you read ethics and then there's a commentary by somebody and then go and read ethics again. Says you will fall in love with philosophy forever. Study Mandukya Karika and you will fall in love with Vedanta forever. And conclusion is what? Verse number 40. It's deadly. Oh, sorry, 39. That, no, did I miss some verse? No, असत जागृते दृष्ट्वा स्वप्ने पश्यति तन्मया असत स्वप्ने भी दृष्ट्वा जो प्रतिबुद्धो न पश्यति. This was verse number 39. I forgot to mention the verse. And verse number 40 said, Nasti asat hetukam sat asat hetukam tatha satcha sat hetukam nasti sat hetukam asat kutaha. There are too many sat asat. So about real and unreal, it says the unreal cannot have another unreality for its cause, nor can the real have the unreal for its cause. Real is sat, unreal is asat. The real cannot be the cause of the real, and how utterly impossible it is for the real to be the cause of the unreal. This verse number 40, it sums up the arguments that has been going on. It just simply says, birth is impossible. So effect is impossible. Effect is kind of birth. When we say birth, we normally think of somebody being born. Effect is a kind of birth. Birth from a cause. Mandukya Karika sums up cause and effect, says there is no cause, no effect. But if there is no effect, there cannot be any cause. You cannot say that it is a cause. Why? What we have been discussing for a long time says Shunyavad of the Buddhists, they say that is the unreal coming out from void. Everything is void, and from there, unreal is coming. It's not possible. Then comes Nyaya. It says the world is real, God is real, real comes out from God. It's not possible. Why should real give birth to real? These things have been discussed. And Mandukya actually uses the approach of waking and dream to show how the common ideas are completely wrong. Sankhya says that there is existing Prakriti, it gives birth to existing world, sansar. This was also contradicted earlier. And Dvaita, dualists, they consider that unreal is born from the real. The world is unreal, God is real. Mandukya Karika contradicts all. Says, neither real will produce real, nor real will produce unreal, nor unreal can produce real, nor unreal can produce unreal. There are only two possibilities. Either cause is real or cause is unreal. And effect is either real or unreal. Says, make all these possible combinations. Nothing can be born from anything. It's not possible. This is what the discussion has been going on and it's concluding. Conclusion is there is no birth. Conclusion is there is no cause, there is no effect. So what about karmavad? What Hindus talk so much? You have done something bad in the past karma. Mandik will say, these ideas are meant for mediocre minds. The real Vedantic mind, the real super minds, they don't forget about believing. They know that there is no cause and effect because Brahman cannot get transformed into anything. It's just not possible. Whatever transformation is Brahman only. We, because of our understanding, because of our limited understanding, we think that this had changed, that had changed, etc., etc. Verse number 41. This was very simple because it was just concluding. Verse number 41 says, Viparyas yat yatha jagrat chintyan bhutavat sprishet तथा स्वप्ने विपर्यासात धर्मांस तत्रैव pashyati. As a person in the waking state, through false knowledge, appear to handle objects whose nature is inscrutable. This is very interesting. As if they were real, so also in dream, he perceives through false knowledge objects whose existence is possible in the dream state only. Again, say, it gives the conclusion and gives the example. Whatever you are handling in the waking state, you think that to be real, but actually they are unreal. Why? The objects in this world are product of Maya. Why they are Maya? Because we all think that we are experiencing object. Here is this pen. I know I am seeing this pen. I am touching this pen. It's obvious. No one can deny it. But as one of our listeners beautifully said, real is permanent. But we know that this pain was not there. One day this pain will not be there. That means pain is not permanent. If the pain is not permanent, then it cannot be real. Yet I am experiencing it. That means the reality of the object is not as real as that of Brahman, and its unreality is not as unreal as child of a barren woman. It's not as unreal as, say, mirage. It's real and yet unreal. Real because I'm experiencing it, unreal because it's not permanent. And that is why it is known as Maya. Maya is defined as something which appears to be there and yet it's not there permanently. Yat deshato kalto vastuto avichinnaha. Anything that is not compartmentalized in space, in time, and as object. Only Atman, only Brahman is something which cannot be limited in these three. This pen is limited. It's limited in space, limited in time, limited as an object. And yet it is there. That's why it's Maya. Now, because of our absorption with objects which are actually unreal, when we say unreal, actually these are objects of Maya. And we consider them to be real. And they belong only to the waking state, just like that. The objects of the waking state, they too are unreal. They are also product of Maya. And their existence belong only to the dream state. So the objects of dream states are completely different from the objects of the waking state. But why we say like that? Because we find certain similarities. So we think that waking state is producing dream. But when you go to dream, you don't think like that. Similarly, when you have samadhi, you realize that no, it's not like that. Conclusion is that the objects in dream are as inscrutable, unknowable. They are neither real nor unreal. They are real only in the dream state. They are not unreal as son of barren woman. We are talking of that from the waking state. But same thing, if you go to the samadhi state, if you go to that super sensuous knowledge, then you realize it's all false. Bottom line is that there is no cause and effect. Bottom line is that there is no birth. And bottom line is the world, the waking state, is as unreal as the dream state. So we covered quite a few verses. We'll continue with our discussion the next. Thank you so much.